Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and today I'm doing my July TBR. This is going to be a little different to ones that I've done before because normally I would just tell you all the books, the star ratings, but because I tried something new in July, I did a Snakes and Ladders Picks My TBR. It was the sort of first time I did it, so there were some kinks which I am going to be adapting, and if you check out my August TBR, coming up tomorrow, you will find out how I've changed things. And thank you so much to anybody that commented and gave me ideas of what I could do to adapt it to make it a little bit easier, because there was a ridiculous amount of books on it this month. I am going to just list out and let you know how I did. So I managed to read 20 things this month, which is just phenomenal. I really did push myself hard because I wanted to make the Snakes and Ladders work for the first time. So it did work. It forced me to evaluate some of the books that I had that I'd picked out. So I had 20 that I read. I did have 5 DNFs. Now I don't normally have that many DNFs, but it really did force me to decide whether they were books I wanted to read, to try them, and then to just release them if they weren't right for me. So I did have quite a few DNFs, and then I've got 2 books that were on my TBR. One that I am halfway through, which I might finish tonight, and it is the last day of the month today, but if I finish it, then you know, that's fine. But what I'm going to say is that if I don't manage to read a book in the month, as long as it's not ridiculous and there's like loads of them, then I am going to allow myself a rollover, which means that the book has to go straight onto my next month's TBR and has to be read in that month or it's gotten rid of. Because I think, you know, I want to give myself that extra month just in case, because sometimes you're just not in the mood for things. So those books are Scars Like Wings, which is an arc that I have that was very kindly sent by the publisher, which I think is out in October. I'm loving it so far, but I'm only halfway through. And the other one was Talking with Psychopaths and Savages, which is a non-fiction book, and I just wasn't in the mood for non-fiction this month. I think I've kind of burnt myself out a little bit on that, so I'm going to plop it into my August TBR as an extra. So let's talk about the star ratings. I only had one 5-star read this month, and that was Kid Gloves by Lucy Knisley. It doesn't come as a surprise to me that this was 5 stars. I've loved all of her other books, and I just love her art style. This one really resonated with me. She had quite a similar labour and birth story to myself, which thankfully one of you warned me ahead of time because it was quite triggering for me. Yeah. That was a really good, and I just love her wit and humour and her descriptions and the information that she puts in there. I just think is really interesting, and I really enjoy how she does that. I had 11 4-star reads, which was really good, and the books that I gave 4 stars were Super Awkward, Truly Madly Awkward, Access or Awkward, which is a trilogy by Beth Garrett, which I really enjoyed. It's such a great contemporary fun story, and I really liked the main character's voice. The Truth About Animals and Unnatural Causes, both 2 very different books. One is about animals and tells you sort of the myths and the realities and is very humorous, and the other is a forensic pathologist's story telling his life as a forensic pathologist, but both equally 4 stars. I read Pretty Girls and gave that 4 stars by Karen Slaughter. This was a really good thriller. I really enjoyed it. It's my first Karen Slaughter, and I will be reading some more for sure. I then read a couple of smutty books. I read Dare and I read Dirty Like Me. I enjoyed both of these. 4 stars also went to Call It What You Want and Fix Her Up, both contemporary stories, one YA and one adult. And I read a YA SFF book, which was Alienated by Melissa Landers. This is a really old book, one that came out sort of, I think, towards the start of my time on BookTube, but I'm really pleased I picked it up. I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to be looking for the other 2 in the trilogy from the library. Not one that I'd necessarily rush out to buy the rest myself, but definitely worth a read, so I'm going to see if I can grab them from the library at some point. I had 5 3-star reads, so sort of 3 stars for me is kind of mediocre. I had Goodbye Perfect, Vox, All the Beautiful Strangers, My Little Pony Friends Forever Volume 1, and the biggest disappointment in terms of 3 stars was 5 Feet Apart. I was expecting to love this. I read it for the reading rush. It was my book to movie adaptation. The film was slightly better, but still not, yeah, not for me. I feel like there was a better way to tell this story, and yeah, it just fell a bit flat for me really. Then my 3 2-star reads were Ghost Wall, which was quite a bit of a surprise. I was expecting it to be better, but it was a novella. It's literary fiction. It just didn't work for me. The other one was a T.E. Carter book, All We Could Have Been. I didn't get on well with T.E. Carter's first book, so maybe this author just isn't for me. And the third one was a real disappointment for me. I really loved The Bells by Donielle Clayton. I thought it was a really clever and interesting book. I read the sequel, Everlasting Rose, and I was just a bit disappointed. It didn't have as much time in the court, as much time spent on the sort of magic and development of like the Bells' powers and that side of it, and that was the bit I think I really loved. So unfortunately that fell a bit flat for me as well. So I managed to get through that massive Snakes and Ladders TBR, although I was really lucky and I hadn't gone down any snakes, which could have added to it, and I went up quite a few ladders actually, so it could have been a lot worse. I really did just DNF quite a few books. I just was quite brutal actually. I'll tell you the DNFs now. I DNF'd The Body Lies by Jo Barker, which was a disappointment because I really enjoyed her book Longbourn, but this was very different and very slow and just not what I was looking for. I DNF'd Women Talking. I didn't enjoy this one. I just think maybe literary fiction isn't for me, or maybe there is just very few literary fiction books I get on with. I just didn't get on with this. I just couldn't get into it at all. I DNF'd Eggshells. I just didn't like the voice. I didn't find the writing style worked for me. I've DNF'd and taken the physical book off my TBR for Educated by Tara Westover. Now this non-fiction book looking at her life, leaving sort of quite a strict religious background and educating herself, is one that definitely should be one that I'd enjoy. I just wasn't getting on with it, so I have got the audiobook, so this is one that I think I'll go back to on audio, and maybe when it's the right time this will be a better book for me. And I also DNF'd Prep School Society, which was a really old start of a series about sort of a secret society at a school. It just felt old. I didn't like the characters. It felt quite clunky, and it just wasn't for me, so I have DNF'd that as well. So that was my month of July. I enjoyed it very much. I'm really enjoying the Snakes and Ladders. I've got a good TBR for next month. Within that TBR that you see on Snakes and Ladders, you'll see how I've managed to incorporate my newts into that as well. I didn't actually take my owls, but I have used my July reading, my June reading, I think it is. It'll tell you in the video. I think it's June or July reading, and I've worked out sort of backdating it, what owls that I could do, and so I am going to be taking my newts, so you'll see that as well, and also I'm going to be taking part in Jean's Bookish Thoughts channels Femme Fan Tale book bingo, which is later in the month, so keep an eye out for the separate TBR for that later in the month. Anyway, I hope you all had a really good July. August is a good month for me. I'm on school holidays. We're going away for a week. I tend to read quite a lot then. So I'm really enjoying just to get stuck in to some more books and tell you what I think of them. Anyway, that's it from me. I've got a dog in the background. Not a real one, just a 6-year-old pretending to be a dog. We're off for a play date, so I shall speak to you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.